Good morning. I'm Lawrence Geller, the founder of For Advisors Only. Welcome to the Meet the Masters of Insurance webinar series. This is the 11th of what we expect to be a great many webinars with Canadians who have dedicated their careers to learning the art and science of insurance sales and service. Webinars in this series are now scheduled through the end of this year, and more are being added to the schedule daily. Over the years, I've observed that every successful agent who I've met has succeeded differently, even if they're in the same field, deal with similar clients, and even if they're related or in business together. This is what makes the sale and servicing of insurance one of the best careers that I can imagine. It's possible to become a success in our business with diligence, integrity, and experience. With this webinar series, we intend to prove that any type of person can succeed with time and hard, thoughtful work in insurance. Our goal is to create a video record for each of these masters of insurance so that some of their experience and expertise will be available to anyone who'd like to learn from them in the future. Today, we're pleased to have Neil Paton with us. I will be interviewing Neil. Neil is the president, chief executive officer, and partner of The Edge Benefits. He's an author and founder of an educational institution, Neil's book. He's a coach, a motivator, speaker, and leader. He's the chairman of the trustees of the Port Arlen United Church and board member of the Third Party Administrators Association of Canada, GALPA. As I said, we have now booked interviews through the end of this year, and we're still looking for anyone who you think is a master of insurance who we should be interviewing. Good morning, Neil.
Well, good morning, Lawrence.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Neil, we always start with the same question. Tell me how you got started in the business.
Well, that's a great question. Before I start, I'd just like to say thank you for being a part of this, Lawrence. I really appreciate it. It's an honor, not only to be a part of this group, but also to be interviewed by you. Our past goes back many years, a lot of fond memories, and so I really appreciate that. So how did I get started? I think, to be honest, like many of us, this business is something you tend to fall into. That's what I did. My first career, I guess you call it, would be 12 years in the hospitality business, involved in a resort hotel up in Muskoka. And as much as I loved that business and really enjoyed the people, for something in the back of my mind said you want to have some ownership. I don't know how I got that bug, but I got it. And so I had the discussion with the owner of the hotel, and they have lots of kids. And so the answer was no. And so I knew that the path was for me to part ways. And so it was a difficult decision to leave because it was a wonderful opportunity and organization to work with. But again, through some relationships, I ended up hiring someone by the name of Ellen Bell, who you know well, and her husband, Bill. Ellen was up in Muskoka at the time, and I hired her to run the front office for me. So we became good friends and got to know Bill, and Bill transitioned from being a private school teacher at Rossall Lake College into the insurance business, which was then the Paul Revere organization. So through that relationship, I kept in touch, and he was really enjoying the new career in insurance. And so right around the same time where my opportunities were limited, he said to me, why don't you give it a shot? And I hesitated at first. I had the same sort of feelings that a lot of people would have about the insurance industry when they come into it. They don't know a lot about it. And so I said, all right, I've got nothing to lose. I'll come down and meet with a fellow by the name of Bob Gould, a phenomenal individual, and miss him a lot. But he spent time with me, and he absolutely pushed all of my buttons. He said to me, I've got a great education, and look at all that I've accomplished. I'm going to take everything that I've accomplished, add it to your success. You've got a degree, you've got 12 years experience running a hotel. I'm going to make you even more successful than you ever can imagine. And I said, really? And he was absolutely right. And he saw in me things that I didn't see in me. And over the years we worked together, he was a phenomenal coach and mentor. So that's how I got started. And I'm sure we'll talk about the rest and the twists and turns, but it was relationships. It was a phenomenal guy who was a great giver and a great sharer of his wealth, and a really good coach and mentor and friend.
So you joined Paul Revere Life. Bob had just come down from Saskatchewan, really, not that long before that.
Yes.
It started to develop Paul Revere into a brokerage entity because prior to that, it had been a captive agency company, at least in Canada. So what was your role in that?
Well, I think credit goes to Vince Meinzinger, I think was in 1970, was opened up the brokerage operation, which turned what was a very successful career organization into brokerage. That was a dramatic change for the company and for the industry. And so opening up brokerage was an incredible step forward in that moving away from a traditional model where the training is all provided and you're and so on to a brokerage model where you're reaching out and starting with quite a variety of different people. We, as you know, we worked with independent advisors all over Canada, and they had quite a variety of backgrounds and group background, individual life background, wealth background, you name it. So it was really, it was a great door opener, and it was a great opportunity for myself and many others to grow that Canadian arm of a U.S. company. It was yeah, it was very interesting times, very worthwhile for the companies.
But about that time, Paul Revere cut a deal with the London Life, and that really was somewhere that you started to find a home, wasn't it?
That is where I cut my teeth, so to speak. And I started out by throwing all the brochures and everything I could find from the stockroom into my trunk. And I was assigned, I think it was at the time about somewhere around 30, what was then called DSD, district offices, and GSD offices all over Ontario. And I basically went wild. And it was not easy because I had to first of all, knock down the door to get in and to get and see them and talk to the manager and get approval to come in and start talking with the agents and so on. But I managed to not only survive but thrive. Started with bringing Tim Hortons to the receptionist, bring Tim Hortons donuts to the receptionist, and every other trick in the book. But I made my way in to the point where a few years into it, actually a year and a half into it, I had my name up on the board. I used to have the names on the board of who's in and out, and I had an office dedicated for me. And so I was able to come and go and spent a lot of time in helping London Life agents in both channels understand the opportunity of income protection. And I really, it was a great experience. I loved every minute of it. Lots of objections in those days, but I managed to do pretty well and knock down an awful lot of doors in a lot of those offices and meet some great people.
You worked with a lot of the top producers, the people who were given independence by London Life because they produced so much. But most of those people were elephant killers, they're elephant hunters. They were out for big deals. How did you work with them to get them to understand disability? Because that's really what living benefits were back then.
That's exactly right. And I think, and it's still a challenge today. There are the minority of people in the industry who really understand income protection and understand the importance of it and understand how to position it and how to make sure that especially people who don't have any income protection, it's important for even people who do, but for the people who don't, it's a difficult conversation and it's a challenging conversation. And that's one of the things that I took on right away. And the way I started my most successful seminars when I got up in front of all the people was I tried to diffuse the objections by asking the question, okay, give me all the reasons you guys are not selling income protection. Go ahead, and I wrote them all on the board. And then I said, well, what about this one? I kept adding to it and adding to it. So by the time we got through that, about 20 minutes into it, I said, okay, here's the deal. If I can actually deal with all these objections and demonstrate to you that it's still worthwhile for you to promote income protection, would you work with me? And that was I spent the rest of the time helping them to position and understand and the importance of income protection and how the work that it does for pennies on the dollar provide millions of dollars to people in need. And that was really how I cut my teeth in the disability income business and how I got the success with London Life. And London Life, there was a huge organization. So the top of the GSD would be high-end people like the Joe Powell in the world and very, very successful people. But I still managed to get in and talk with people like Joe and convince them and talk to them about the importance of it. And I remember some great joint field work I did with Joe and others. And then the other end of the spectrum, brand new DSD offices where people just joined the industry like hours ago. I've been working with them to partly motivate them and show them how they can make some money and show them how they can put together and put in front of a client important income protection solutions. And that helped a lot of them create an income stream to help them survive in the business. So it was really a lot of fun.
You were dealing with a lot of people, triple type A personalities. How did your experience as a hotelier inform that relationship or those relationships?
That's a great question. And that's an example where I didn't really know through the 12 years of being in the resort business and dealing with hundreds and thousands of employees of the organization and also guests coming, checking in and out. I didn't realize the value of all those interactions. And the resort business can be challenging, and all of those challenges you learn how to work with people, how to handle difficult people, how to get things done. And so a lot of those skills I was able to bring to the table when I was in front of either one-on-one or in front of a group of people. Those skills I was able to bring to the table. So I learned very quickly. The one skill that helped me more than anything is understanding who has potential and who doesn't. So yes, we have 100 people in a particular office, but my job was to find out who the ones who were really serious and could make something happen, and who are the ones that were just blowing smoke. And I learned very quickly to focus on the ones that were serious and to let the other ones go. I'd still return their calls, but you could tell pretty quickly who was capable and interested and able, and you work with them and you bring them along and you try to nurture the rest and keep their eyes open. And the other part of it is, people love to understand other people's successes. So I started in just trying to, deal with the objections, but as I progressed, I would be talking about John Smith here and the success he had with looking after a client, and why are you not doing the same thing for your clients? And so I'd use that to shame them a little bit into it. And so there's a lot of different tools, but the relationship part of it, as you say, was key. And those years of my resort background helped me a lot as I was developing those relationships.
Life insurance is a high-low commission product where the first year you get a chunk of money and then a little bit going on. Disability is more of a levelized commission product. How did you talk with the people of London Life?
That's a great question, and I think that was one, and it's still one of the biggest problems in the industry. I mean, a lot of advisors are out there looking for all the money up front, whether it's annualized commission or whether it's high, low, or whatever. I mean, everybody wants everything today, but one of the things that we did, especially back in the day, the comp models in that day were extremely generous, as you say, with respect to renewal streams. And so that, we developed models that demonstrated and put down in front of each of the people I was talking to. I say, how much do you think you could do? And I would talk about the average case, and I said, well, if you did, one a month, or if you did one a week, or if you did whatever, and how much premium do you think? And you put it into the program and then span it out for 10 or 15 years with decent level renewals and no chargebacks. All of a sudden, the dollars that I could show them, not only for an income stream, but a retirement income, was really the solution. We call it in the Paul Revere days, the $1 million annuity. So, I mean, we were very successful in doing that. And it was hard because you're competing with an awful lot of money up front from some of the high-end, life products and other products that deliver up front. But ours is a little more like a group-like. So you build up that base and it supports you for the long term. Yeah.
How long did you work with the people from London Life?
Well, I think it was around, I'm guessing about a year and a half or so. And then when Bob came into my office one day and said, you know what, it's time for a change. And I think you have been so successful with those London Life offices. We've got this other account which we just brought on. And back then it was called the Mutual Life of Canada. Obviously, it's evolved many times since then, but we'd like to take you and bring all your successes in London, bring it over to the Mutual of Canada. So I packed up everything and started all over again, and I had almost as many offices, the mutual group companies all over Southern Ontario. And again, met some very interesting and wonderful people. And there was a little, it was a little bit different in that that organization was a little more upscale at the time in the clientele and the brokers that I worked with. And so it was a new, it was a little bit different, but it was a little different challenge. But it was quite enjoyable. And again, using the same principles and all those things about getting to know the people on reception and getting to know the trainers and getting to know the office managers and getting to know the general manager. And I remember, I got to the point where I was invited to all the Christmas parties. I was just a part of their office. It was just wonderful. They were just great times. And but it was all founded on that foundation of helping people see the value of income protection and monetizing it and encouraging them to act. And that's what I did. And we did some really wonderful business. And I did a lot of joint field work back in those days where I would be out in the field with the broker, helping them to present the case to the client. So I remember a lot of fond memories of doing that and learned a lot along the way at the same time.
So shortly after that, our friend Bob unfortunately left us.
Yes.
Then the company started to change.
Yes.
And so what happened then?
Well, to make a somewhat short story of it, as I can't remember what the actual year was when all of the integration and acquisition started, but the acquisitions started, and it started first with Provident coming along and buying Paul Revere. Lots of drama and lots of, as you go through any kind of a merger or acquisition. So that was throwing everything up in the air. And then the next one that came along was Unum, then buying Provident. So it became Unum Provident. And then the next one came along with RBC and RBC.
Before we get to RBC, we'll come back to
yeah,
that.
okay. So
at this point, you have your own office.
Yes. I had moved out. I'd become a general manager and moved out to the Mississauga area, or sorry, the Burlington area, and I was a GM of that region, and that was my position when we merged with the Provident. Yeah.
And at that point, you were working with Vince Meinzinger's son, Howie.
Yeah, I was absolutely many great years with Howie. Yes.
So you were mentoring a 2G in the business.
Right. Exactly.
So Provident left Canada and sold to RBC, a big entity. George Shell was the face of Provident in Canada, which is good because George was a great guy and understood us and knew the business.
Yes.
RBC was a big change, but you weren't in the field anymore at that point.
Correct. And I owe a lot of thanks to an awful lot of people that helped me through all those different transitions. But one in particular was George Shell, and John Young is another one, a familiar name to many of you. And George obviously knew that the acquisition was coming. And so I was given the opportunity to move out of the field operations and into the head office. And part of the reason that was done is to be in advance of an acquisition. He wanted to make sure that I had a senior level position going into the acquisition, so I would fare a little bit better as we went through the acquisition, bringing the companies together. So I was asked to come in a vice president role into the head office at the time, and then RBC came along. So I transitioned when the RBC acquisition. I transitioned over as a senior officer within RBC at the time when it became RBC. So it was and it was a little transition. I was obviously, I love the field, and I spent almost all my career building teams and building field teams. And I love that part of it. I love getting things done and developing people and seeing them succeed. But I realized that, I had an opportunity to do more than that. And so that was where I got into a little bit of product development, helping with that, and a little better sort of observation of the industry, the financial side of things and the administration side of things. And so it was a transition. But again, a lot of great people in the Paul Revere organization and the Provident Unum when RBC came along. And so I was pleased to be able to help work with all those people when that acquisition happened. Yeah.
So essentially, this is your third career because now you're a head office guy. So how did your experience as a hotelier in a resort and your experience running a field operation inform your experience as a head office guy?
Well, that's another great question because, again, you don't realize it when you're in the middle of it, but after 20 some odd years of building teams, building successful teams, you realize there's a lot to that. And so when I had the opportunity that was presented to me in 2009 to join the Edge Benefits, it was a natural opportunity for me to consider. So it was just, the timing was perfect. I felt that the organization of the RBC was wonderful organization and great people, but that corporate culture at a high level didn't really fit with where my heart was. And so when David Prince came along and tapped on my shoulder and said, I have a problem, I'd like to retire and exit the business and transition out, and I need someone to come and run my business. And so when that happened, we had some good conversations. He, again, another person who saw more in me than I did in myself. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I had the skills, and I didn't know much about the organization. I was scared to death. It was a difficult decision. I remember talking to my dad and said, what do you think about leaving RBC to go with this little Edge Benefits? And he said, RBC, they're the best thing in the world. They're a blue chip company at stock. What are you, nuts? Anyway, I left, and in hindsight, it was the right thing for me. I was able to now bring, as you say, all the experience of my hospitality background, all the experience of building teams, all the head office experience of building budgets and managing infrastructure and admin and IT and all that. So I was able to come on board as a minority owner within the Edge Benefits and really continue to learn, but also bring some of those skills to the table to try and continue to grow the Edge Benefits organization. So it's been fabulous.
You're telling me 20 years in, you still remembered that you wanted to have an ownership.
Absolutely.
Now you have.
In the back of my mind, it was a funny conversation because this is getting a little personal, but Dave said, okay, come on board, I'll give you 5% ownership. And I said, no, it has to be 10.01% because that level you can transfer dividends tax-free. And all of us, oh, all right. So we ended up continuing the conversation and we worked through all the differences, but it worked out very well in that I was able to double the value of the business from when I came on to when Dave ended up selling all of his shares. So what the plan we developed worked out exactly as we both had hoped. So I was able to double the business once, and then we've now doubled the business again since then. So it's been a wonderful ride, and it didn't happen because of me. It happened because of the great people that I've been able to work with and bring along. And again, we've got another distribution team I've built. Our employees now at the Edge Benefits, our sales directors are absolutely phenomenal. And I won't take all the credit, but I love to say some input into helping them be the people they are right now.
Well, you've been able to help mentor people, and you've become in turn a mentor. At RBC, you'd started to work in product development. Yeah. When David started Edge, it was really dealing with truckers, which is a very different market from RBC's. Well, it hadn't been, but yes, it moved over.
Definitely.
You started to have a greater role in product development.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. The Edge Benefits is coming up to our 40th year, but I'd say that 15 years ago, we were still focused primarily on just one product, and it was mostly in transportation and mostly just disability. But obviously that needed to change, and so gradually started by adding other AD&D type benefits, adding travel benefits. And then the other thing is we started to go beyond just the niche of transportation, because we realized that there are an awful lot of people that need what we sell beyond independent owner operators within the transportation field. And so our focus has changed a number of times over the years. So it went from transportation more broadly into the market of anybody who is self-employed and doesn't have benefits. We need that. So what we've done in the Edge Benefits is basically transformed what was a complicated traditional industry, and we've simplified it. And that simplification is now really changed the market, changed the industry. And so it's a lot like what Canada Protection Plan has done for the life industry. Again, they've simplified the process and so on, and there's some uniqueness of it. So that we had that opportunity. So we've done that, and we expanded, and we offer life products. We offer obviously disability income. We have other critical illness, and so a variety of up to 12 products now that we offer both individually, but we also have other niches that we're in now, which is if we can look after the needs of one self-employed people, why can we not look after the needs of a small business? And so one of the things we started into probably 5 or 6 years ago is getting into the small business sector, where everybody in the industry knows that a traditional group solution doesn't necessarily always meet the needs of a 7-life group or a 12-life group or even a 22-life group because they don't have the flexibility. It can be expensive. A lot of people can't get it because of the nature of their industry or their family content or whatever. So because of the nature of how we've structured it, we are able to get in and offer solutions that others cannot. And so we've had great success, and that's becoming a significant part of our business. So it's more of the same. I mean, everything that we do, it has to be simple. That's one of the filters that everything goes through. But sometimes you have to go through complexity to come back to simple. And so we've done that. And that's what all of our processes. We've got state-of-the-art ability, enrollment capabilities, and technology, and all that sort of thing. But it all evolved over time based on the needs that are, all the wonderful. But we have 21,000 advisors contracted. So those folks told us what we need, and we listened and we acted as quickly as we possibly can. So that's really part of our success story over the almost 40 years.
Remember the advisors, we'll come back to them.
Yes.
Dave Patriarch a few weeks ago was talking about the inadvisability of having independent contractors on a group plan, particularly for disability, but for anything. But that's your niche.
Yeah.
How can you help an employer who has a group that appropriately covers employees, but also has independent contractors?
Right. Well, that's true. And one of the things the unique things about our offering is that our offering is different in that when we engage with a small number of people, we're offering a number of individual contracts. And so although it has a look and feel that it is group, we are actually issuing each one of those folks an individual contract. It starts out with basic health and dental coverage, and then that is often what the employer looks after. And then we layer on top of that individuals choosing to add on to that, either by critical illness or by disability income and so on. But they're individual policies, and if they leave that firm, they take it with them. So it's a different model entirely from a group model, and that's part of the uniqueness of our offering, and that's what enables us to get in and be able to offer the solutions we do in the markets that we do that are really underserved. I talked before about a limited number of people that are active in the income protection business. Well, there's also a limited number of people that are active in the very small group, because if you're a group producer, why wouldn't you focus on the higher end where you can have, 300, 400, 500 life groups? Whereas if you've got 5 or 6 or 10 or 12, it's not as attractive. So that's why we find that it's worthwhile, and that's where we're spending a lot of our time.
There are two aspects to that then. One is retention. It's much more difficult to lose individual policies than it is group with an agent of record letter, but also the ability to move into a new employment situation, a new employer situation when an employee moves. So if an employee moves from a group where an agent is working, where they've sold Edge benefit, the employee takes the product with them. How do you help them to get into these employer?
That's a great question. There are two really important aspects of how valuable what we're doing is. The first one is what you mentioned, where a lot of times we insure 10, 15, 20, 30 people, or even some of our fleets, we insure 300, 400 at a time. When any of those individuals go and go to another fleet, that does give us an opportunity to go and meet with that new fleet or meet with that new firm that potentially doesn't have any benefits and start to put a benefit program together. So that's a great opportunity. The other opportunity we find is that we have a lot of national accounts we work with, and we work with about 75 MGAs. And one of the value propositions that we deliver is we're creating clients. And so what happens is a lot of our groups are virgin groups. They've never had group before. And so we're going in, and as soon as we work with the broker to help them understand how to put an affordable, flexible, available type plan in place for that 15 life group, once it's all in place, that individual broker now has the opportunity to pick up the phone and on a preferred basis, talk to 15 people and look after all of their life needs, all their disability needs, all the needs that aren't maybe being fully looked after by the base layer of coverage that they got. So it's really, you know, our national accounts, we really promote that because although, you know, you could look at it and say, well, why are you in the group business? Well, we're in the group business to help create new opportunities for your advisors to create income and to sell all the other products that you sell. So it's a phenomenal side benefit of what we're doing with the advisor and with the companies they work with.
What are you told about the consequential sales that result then?
Sorry,
What are you told about the consequential sales, about the number or size of the consequential sales that result for the for the national account?
Oh, it's phenomenal in that, you know, as soon as people get it, then, you know, that is the welcome, come on into my office now, because now we can show them that, you know, you just brought that case on, you brought that case on, you brought that case on. So we can add up the number of people. We've created, you know, 60 or 70 or 80 brand new opportunities for you to go and offer your full suite of products in whatever company you're with. And some of our companies we deal with are captive agency type companies where they only offer their own products. That's fine because we don't compete with them on that. We get that foundation in, and then they can become very successful. So we're helping people look after clients, bring clients in, look after their needs, and make some money. And the other thing we do is we help some of those new advisors in the business make some money. Because a lot of people in the business, it's hard to find your way in the first 2 or 3 years. And if we can find a way like this to help them get in and look after a lot of 10, 15, 20 life small groups, and then develop new opportunities for them to sell their products to, it helps them survive. So it's win-win. And the other thing is, you know, a small group brings in, you know, $10, $15, $20,000 worth of premium, whereas a single individual disability case could be as low as $1,000 or $2,000. So it's more attractive for everybody to be focused on those kinds of business. And there's no shortage of small business owners and small businesses in Canada, and they're not particularly well served by the market right now. So that's why we're enjoying that growth. We're growing at a substantial rate, and it's becoming a significant part of our business.
As I recall, 80% of Canadian businesses are small businesses with under 20 employees.
You got it.
Niche is an extraordinarily large niche. Back in the very early 90s, your job was to develop brokers into producers of disability. When you joined Edge, there were a couple of hundred brokers. Now you say there are 20,000. Can you talk about what you did, or what you worked with the Edge team to do to attain that large number of brokers working with you?
Yeah, and the number of brokers we had when I joined was greater than a couple hundred, but you're right, our growth has been phenomenal in number of brokers. And really the secret, I think, to our success is we get in front of an awful lot of people. As simple as that. And so we have a seminar model, which is first, and it's a foundation of our coverage, so of our story. And so for basically at least 2 times a year, we devote an entire month to physically getting in front of thousands of advisors coast to coast. And that is really the foundation of our success, because we get the chance to meet them and then develop a relationship, and we follow up on that immediately and try to work with them and help them. So that's one. And then the other thing that's we do very well are webinars. And the webinar, it started long before COVID, by the way. It started even back with Rod Pym, who was with us many years ago, and I think he started many years ago doing the webinars. It was called Foxwire or something like that. Anyway, so there's a lot of history to that, and we not only learned how to do it, but we do it extremely well, and that really supported us in an amazing way through COVID, because all of a sudden everybody's world was turned upside down. Well, we already were completely comfortable with that method of communication and working. So through COVID, we continued to do tons of webinars because people obviously weren't out seeing people face to face. So that really served us very well. And the other thing that's really important is we understood a long time ago, agents and brokers don't want to get on a call and hear about my product's better than your product and all that crap. And so we don't do the product flogging at all. We do periodically have enhancements to our products, so we do talk about that, but our products are more, our webinars and our seminars are more how-to. And we do one where we just go over updates to the government benefits, where we talk about WCB across Canada and how does it work and what are the limits. And so we educate them, and then we teach them, what's a target market? And we try to work with them to find, where did you come from? And we try to get a link from, if you were an electrician and you started in the insurance business, let's go back and leverage that history that you've got to try and work with you. So we're all about developing brokers and helping them become successful from where they are. But there's still, there's still that 80-20, and some people, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? So, we provide all of that to everybody, but only a small number take advantage of it. And those are the ones we work with. And only a small number of those really want to do a lot of business, and we work very closely with them. So it's a spectrum. We provide service to them all, but we obviously work with the ones who have demonstrated the interest and the potential more closely.
So that's consistent again from your days with Bob Gould when you were working with London and Mutual. But back then you did joint field work.
Yeah.
Does Edge do much joint field work now? And how have you brought that into their operation?
Yes, absolutely. Prior to us getting into the small business, it's called small business benefits, is what we offer to the small business community. Prior to getting into that, we were selective in our joint field work because we have, with that number of advisors, you can spread yourself too thin. And so you can waste a lot of time, driving an hour to a 1 hour meeting and driving an hour back. That's a lot of wasted time. So what we did is we learned from that and tried to leverage it. So we transitioned and did a lot of video type calling, so the broker could be in the client's office and people would video in, or we did all kinds of things like that. But one of the things we've also learned is in small business cases where you've got 15, 20,000 of premium involved, we want to make sure that happens. And so in the traditional group world, I think what happens is they, go out and get quotes from however many companies, and then they follow up and say, do you have everything you need, and have a nice day. We learned that doesn't work very well. And so what we do is we insist on making sure that we meet with the broker to go over the quote. And we encourage the broker, especially if they have any concerns or inexperience, that our people come along with them to meet with that business owner, especially the first one or the first two. And so that value add, they appreciate it, and we know that the case is going to be sold. And so we do not just fire out a bunch of quotes and hope for the best. We insist on delivering them sort of personally and doing a conference call with them and helping them to understand, and then encouraging them to bring our people along to help make the sale. And it's worthwhile when you got a $20,000 premium. The model works. But again, we deal with 21,000 advisors. We've only got about 12 people that we employ. Do the math. I mean, you just can't look after everybody. You have to ask them and very quickly learn which are the ones that are serious, and work with them more closely and develop a deep, wonderful relationship with them.
You said that when you joined Paul Revere, you filled your car with brochures and you went out on the road. How have brochures changed?
Oh my goodness, they almost don't exist. Even our seminars, we used to go to these seminars, open up this kit, and was filled with all kinds of stuff. Those days are gone now. There's QR codes now, and so it's completely changed. And it's not all bad. So we still give advisors a lot of tools, but what we do is most of it is electronic. And then if there is some sort of a paper, something that they need, they can download it or they can order it from us. But it's changed dramatically. And so most everything that we do now is electronic. We built what's a sales resource center for our employees, which are the people that are out helping all of our advisors understand, the opportunity and how to sell it. But that resource library has everything in it that they need. So there are presentations, thousands of them. There are tools, there are one-pagers, there are brochures, there's handouts, there's all the detail on product. There's everything you need is in there, but it's all electronic now. And we try to, give it to them as they need it, as opposed to, this isn't public for them. It's our internal resource library that our people use and bring the information out of there and bring it to the forefront with the advisor as it's appropriate. So it's changed a lot. Yeah.
And do you help the agents, brokers who you work with to develop business as well?
Definitely, yeah. And technology is changed dramatically, and even the application process. I mean, we were way ahead of the industry, and we had an electronic application, completely electronic, probably almost 10, 12 years ago, a long time ago, long before the industry was doing it. And so that part of it is changed dramatically. And we continue to do that, and we moved even further forward with technology to the point now where we not only can accommodate a broker being in an office with a client, and we don't need to be involved. They're directly using our engine, our electronic engine, to fulfill that person, even if they're not. The broker can be at home and the client can be in their office. They can be on a video call and enroll that person like that. And the other level we brought it to now is we've developed the technology for all of our products, so a broker can use a unique link, and that unique link can be sent to a number of people. So we have an example out with a particular broker that we work with out west, where an email was sent out to a certain number of people within this small association, and overnight there were 22 people that bought our product, and they were then informed of that in the morning, and their responsibility was to do their fiduciary responsibility and follow up and make sure those cases were placed, and so on and so on. So that technology of 24/7 capability we built years ago. And so now we're just using it and working with selected brokers, because it only works if you've got a really effective marketing plan. Because you can't use technology and put it on your website and say, I'm going to put it up there and all these clients are going to come running and buy my product. No, we don't do that. We are only going to work with someone if they sit down with us and demonstrate that they can build a really effective marketing plan. And we want to see what those communications are going to look like. And we're only going to work with people who make that level of effort. So it's wonderful opportunity for the future. Can you imagine, if all the brokers in Canada had that link and they were sending it out to all different people who didn't have coverage and allowing them to buy, it's an entirely new opportunity that exists, and we're pretty excited about it.
I think several of us learned the advantage of that when Len Albert and Gil Lipfeld developed the Sunnybrook Hospital case, and all of a sudden doctors were coming to them.
You got it.
Many years ago.
You got it.
Back then, when Bob Gould first came to speak with me, 83, 84, he was describing to me guaranteed insurability, future income options, and the advantage to those. You guys have a novel way of helping the agents who work with you on that. Can you discuss that?
Absolutely. One of the things we realized, and again, this is probably from my background, I realized that, in the traditional Paul Revere model back in the 80s, future income options, they developed that, and then the other companies followed along and had something similar. But the idea was people's incomes grow, period. I mean, that's a norm, and you need to make sure that the coverage keeps up with people's income. But not all advisors have the time to go back every year and do a full review to say, okay, guess what? You bought $2,000 of coverage. Now you need another $500. And so because of that, we said, why don't we do that for our advisors? And so we developed an in-force strategy a year or so ago. And so now what we're doing is we're reaching out to brokers and saying, tell you what, let us know if you do not want to take part in this. And so we will not, we'll exclude your data and your clients. But most people, we got 98% of people are saying yes, because what we're doing is reaching out to them electronically, all of their clients, that a certain group of clients. And so let's say you bought $2,000, we're giving them the opportunity to say, surely that your income has gone up. Do you need more? And $500, well, we're doing it in $500 increments on the coverage. And we do all the work, and they say yes, and then we simply issue the policy, and they're done, and there's work to be done by the broker at the end. We pay full comp on that. At the moment, we are. As this grows, we may reserve the right to not pay full comp, because if we're dealing with hundreds and thousands of cases, then we're doing all of the work. And obviously, the broker needs to do their fiduciary responsibility once the sale is made. But that will come, that crossroad we'll deal with later. But for now, it's a technology that we're leveraging across all our products. So if you bought $50,000 of guaranteed issue critical illness. We're doing an automated way where they can buy an extra 25 on top of that. And again, it's all automated. The client just point click, yes, I love it. And it's all done. So we're working on all those, and we're looking at some cross-sell opportunities as well. So we're looking to reach out. If you got a 15 life group and they only got a certain basic level of coverage, we want to reach out to those 15 people and say, would you like to upgrade what you have, and so on. So those are really important, opportunities for the future, and they drive new revenue for the advisors, and they help the clients out, the people they can't necessarily get to.
You're also helping those agents, those advisors, to insulate themselves from potential liability, because if they offer the product, they offer the increase to someone who's eligible for it, at least they've offered it, or you've offered it for them or with them.
Absolutely.
That people see as an advantage?
It is, and I think that's one of the biggest risks that a lot of, I think, let's say a financial planner or a CFP or whatever. I think if those folks are holding themselves out as a financial planner and they are not looking after the income protection needs of their client, that is a big concern, because as we all know, people become disabled. And if people become disabled and their income stream is gone, and they blow through whatever savings they have in a year or two, and then they're left destitute, who they're going to come back and go after and litigate is that CFP who neglected to look after their clients. So we see it as a way to complement what the advisor does, help them reach out. And this, the technology I mentioned earlier with associations, there's a ton of opportunity within the association marketplace where a lot of people do not have any coverage whatsoever because of the structure that they're in, and a typical group solution doesn't look after it as well as it could otherwise be because of the nature of the industry, for example. So there's lots of opportunities for us to reach out, and it's almost like direct marketing when you think about it. When we're reaching out, and we're getting much better success rates than you would with direct marketing. So it's a great service, and it's a great value add, and it's a very important thing for advisors to be doing. I see it down the road where, if a life advisor is not that comfortable or familiar with the income protection, we can work with them to work with their client base and develop a custom communication that goes out to all their clients. And there's a link in there, and so you send out to your top 100 clients, income protection is important, and whatever you want to say in there, and the link's in there, they can point, click, and buy. And so that is a way for them to meet their obligation and do it in an automated way that doesn't require you to go out and try and make appointments with 100 of your people that are self-employed, for example. So there's opportunities in the property and casualty field where property and casualty brokers, sometimes there's a light person in there, but sometimes there's not. So we can work with them to the same kind of thing, work with them to provide this capability. And obviously there has to be a licensed person to fulfill the obligations once the sales are made. But no, it's the world is our oyster with respect to this technology. We just need to continue to find more people who can take it where we want to go. So we're open for business in regard to that.
There has to be a life licensed person for them to receive commission, life insurance commission.
You got it. You got it.
After 40 years, Edge must be dealing with a lot of people who are getting to be my age and starting to think of bringing someone else in and transitioning out.
Yes.
But when you bring somebody else in, as you said, they don't have business necessarily. Do people use the Edge products to help new people learn the business?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, the ideal situation is that we have those conversations with them before they choose to retire, and we can help facilitate introductions and try and make that happen so that blocks can actually be bought. So we do that, and we do get situations where people retire and they are no longer actively working with their client base. So we do get calls, and we support those calls, and we realize that with the nature of a lot of the comp structures are such that the vested compensation continues forever on that. That's part of the value proposition of what the comp plans do and the value of being in the business. So we basically provide the service for anybody that is in need. So I think the orphaned issue is still an issue, but in my mind, there are ways to look after the needs of people who no longer have an advisor. Through most agents and brokers are associated with an MGA, or they're associated with a parent company, or they're associated with somebody. But regardless, we have all kinds of licensed people within our organization who can look after those needs, and we either look after it or refer that out and develop a new relationship so they can work with them. So the goal is to make sure that anybody who is orphaned because they no longer have someone to look after them, we connect them with someone who will. And generally, they're, we try to make that seamless and try to make it worthwhile. In some cases, you're not able to transfer the comp over. Like, it's not a group model where you can just get an AOR and transfer all the comp over. It doesn't work that way in individual, and I don't know that I'd want it to for a variety of reasons. But I think we have an obligation to make sure that anybody who is orphaned is looked after. So we and all the people we work with do a good job of doing that.
Up until the past couple of years, Edge worked with smaller MGAs, and then now you've been working with the big five. How is that different?
Well, that's a great question. We've always worked with a lot of MGAs for many, many years, and a lot of them have been smaller MGAs that were focused on living benefits and a little bit niche and a little bit unique. And we recognized that the distribution landscape was changing, and we needed to get into the MGA business in a bigger way. And so what we did is, I picked up the phone and leveraged a lot of the relationships that I had. So we went on a little bit of a road trip and met with what was then the top 5 MGAs in Canada, top 5 national MGAs in Canada, and we persuaded them to come on board with us and offer our products. We got a lot of objections at the beginning. We don't need another product on the shelf. We've already got disability products or whatever, but we managed to break through that, and it's really, and the commitment we had to make for that is we had to discontinue our practice of signing up brokers directly with our company. And that was okay because, we've got a block of direct producers that work with us now. We're just not growing it anymore. So we made that commitment. Once we made that commitment, then the relationship started. So now we have a relationship with around 75 smaller MGAs, and then we have some mid-sized MGAs. And then we now also work with what we call the MGA Alliance, which is some of the top ones in Canada that are national. And that's still a growing opportunity because we've only been doing that for 2, maybe 3 years. But there's a big potential there because we're still only less than 10% penetrated within those MGAs. So it's really a great opportunity for us, and it's still growing.
This is something we hadn't discussed. Do you think there's still a place for associate general agents and personal producing general agents with all of the big MGAs taking such a great role?
I think there is, because I think what it all comes down to is the value add. Because in my opinion, you need to, create a financial structure around people to support them and helping to grow a business. So there's nothing wrong with, an AGA that focuses on one and need the MGA for the access to the products and so on. But there's nothing wrong. We have quite a number of them, and we encourage that. And it's like a stepping stone for people to become an MGA. So I think it's a great part of our business. I think it works well. And it allows the compensation to be shared amongst a variety of people who contribute to what is most important, which is the development of a broker, and then the progression of that broker is really important in our industry. So we're really happy about that, and our MGA relationships now are phenomenal. We really have accomplished a lot in the last 3 years. And we continue, obviously, to work with the ones who have been with us for many, many years as well, a lot of the smaller ones. Yeah, that's great.
Can you speak a little bit about what you think about mentorship and about study groups?
Absolutely. I think the first thing when you asked me if I'd be interested in saying, being a part of this, that's the first thing that came to mind, is that our industry is an industry of an amazing number of generous, sharing people. And that became obvious to me over the years, and that's not very common in a lot of other industries. And so the mentorship and the coaching and the expertise of people who have already accomplished a lot in their career is available. And people are so generous in that either if it's within a company, there are a lot of examples where if you start with Sun Life, for example, there's mentorship programs within Sun Life, so you get paired up and you could meet some of the top Sun Life people. But our industry is beyond that. Even if you're not in a Sun Life organization, if you're in on your own or whatever, the industry is there to help you. And I have found that, and I'm quite happy to do what I can to continue that tradition and help others. I'm a little bit limited because my expertise is in income protection and not necessarily in wealth or life, or I have some experience in group, but I'm not an expert with respect to product and so on. But I am an expert when it comes to understanding how the mind works, and understanding motivation, and understanding how your emotions you need to control them, and how important that can be in guiding your life. So our industry has been great. Many people have helped me, and there are many generous people who are willing to help others. So I think for those younger people thinking of getting into the business, that's one of the key things that will help you. Get a study group from your, it used to be LUA, and now it's Abacus or whatever. Those people you go through, get those relationships going and keep them going, because that study group and the shared experience of learning from each other helps immensely, and it is alive and well in our industry, thank goodness.
Yeah, it still needs work, but it is alive and well. You're an unusual person in my mind. I think of you as an agent, and yet you're really much more of a head office guy, and have been for a very long time. But you understand the field. What advice would you give to someone who is thinking of a career but doesn't necessarily want to be in the field, doesn't necessarily want to be a personal producer, but wants to be the sort of person you become?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. And everybody's different. And we even find in our company, some people like to do things themselves and become very successful, and that's what they enjoy, and that's what they survive at. Other people really enjoy developing other people and building teams, and that's what they enjoy. And I've seen both, and they're both wonderful people, but they're just different. And so, you're right in that our company, we have a phrase, sales covers sins. And, I'm always focused on sales. I understand sales are the lifeblood of the company. And so that never has left me. And so I guess I've never left that little bit of the field, and understanding the value of advisors and the importance of advisors and what they do and how difficult their role is, and anything we can do to help them and make it easier. That's what we focus on. And so to me, it wasn't a difficult transition, because, we're a relatively small company. Yes, I'm the president CEO, but so what? I mean, I'd still jump into our monthly distribution meetings and get my fingers in there, and I'm involved. We leave all the titles at the door, and we basically just dive into the problem. Let's go. And, all those things just don't happen in big organizations with structure and hierarchy, and you're not allowed to talk to them, and you can't talk to them. And, we don't have any of that. I mean, we are just down to earth, and an organization that is focused on that end goal, which is growing the business and helping our brokers. And so I think, although I've had to learn all the rest, all the finance and all the IT and all the admin and everything, I've had to learn it, and the valuations and the things I'm involved in now. Like I obviously try to rely on a lot of others to do that, because that's not what I enjoy the most, but I do enjoy the distribution team. I love engaging with them and solving their problems and helping them. So that will never go away, I guess.
The company culture comes from the top.
You got it. Well, I'll laugh, because you were the one, like a lot of people on here would notice that, the little motivational things that you sent. Well, I started doing that because of you 10 years ago. So all of my employees will laugh, but every morning, every weekday morning, I do an inspirational quote out, and I basically say, welcome to the day. And I think it was Howie Meinzinger that used to say, welcome to Thursday or whatever. But it's a little touch that I do to all of my employees. And who knows? I mean, I get notes once in a while back from them saying, no, it really made my day. But over, 10 years of a new one every day, it starts to change the culture. And so we've got a culture now that is absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, I may have had a little bit to do with it, but, we just got some great people, and they're surviving and thriving and empowered in our organization because of our operating team, and because of, a little bit of that culture that we talked about. So yeah, it doesn't happen overnight, but I think we've done pretty well.
I keep saying that we're all instant overnight successes in 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
What advice would you give to somebody new starting in the business or in any business?
Well, I guess the one, and first of all, I would over the top emphasize the value of this industry. And just to sort of answer your question before, you don't need to come in and be a producer for your entire career. Some do it, some don't, but there are so many other spin-offs from that that are open to you. There's like a myriad of them. And I just think of, for example, we're a third-party administrator, TPAAC. There's tons of opportunities within, our association. Some of those large companies that we work with in our association have hundreds and hundreds of employees, and the opportunities are endless. And, every day we are stumbling onto new opportunities because, as this new technology allows us to get into these new markets, new people are then hired to drive these different buses. So I'd say the opportunity is phenomenal. The people in it are amazing. The opportunity for you to succeed in whatever level you want is there. Some people it's making lots of money, great. Some people it's more than that. It's being, the kind of person that you want. And I thank this industry for helping me to be the kind of person I am right now, because Bob Gould back in 1987 gave me that book, As a Man Thinketh. And that little book has dramatically changed my life, because I've read it, first of all, I don't know how many thousand times, but it then got me on to Think and Grow Rich. And then I've got a library at home of probably 1,500 self-development books now. And so the point is that the industry helped me get tapped into all that and realize that, okay, you've got to invest in yourself. And professional development, I'm a CLU, I'm a CHS, I'm going to get all the education you can. So join a company that's going to give you all that training, and then rely on that training as you're going. So, and rely on others. So it's a phenomenal industry. It's tough in the first few years, I'll say, no question about it, but it is more than worthwhile. And the industry needs people today more than ever before, because, it's harder now. You can't pick up the phone and call people like you used to. But there are new things like social media. There's a lot of new ways where we can get ourselves out there and provide value to customers. So I think the industry is alive and well and welcoming new people. And the more people we can bring into the industry and train them and help them become successful, they can become whatever they want in any of the insurance organizations. It's huge.
Thank you, Neil. That's excellent. Next week, we'll have Brian Millard with us. And Julian Wise will be interviewing Brian. Then Mario Malatesta and Dave Patriarch will be interviewing him. Then Mildred Davis, Michelle Wilson, Micheline Veras, Sue Cracy. So we have quite the lineup. Then the two Hull boys, David and Jeffrey. Then Bill Bell, not the one who Neil was mentioning, but Bill Bell from Montreal, Barry Pascal's stepfather and partner. Then Rob Crowder, just to deal with third-party administrators and their role in the business. Mm-hmm. So over the next several months, we'll try to give you a picture of many of the opportunities that exist in the insurance business and how many people have succeeded, often beyond their wildest dreams in this business. I thank you for joining us, and we'll be here next Thursday. Last week I said Tuesday. I apologize for that. We'll be here next Thursday at 11 a.m. and every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for the foreseeable future. I apologize for going a bit over today, but I think it was well worth it. And I thank you all for your time and attention. Good day.
Thanks, Lawrence.